update that we're tracking. Co-commander level talks will be held between India and China on June 6 in Chushul in Ladakh in order to ease the tensions further. This will be the second such meeting in 6 days. At the same time, India is also ring-fencing China by signing a maritime pact with Australia. Abhishek Kapoor, our executive editor, is joining us with more on this. Abhishek, let's first talk about the Indo-Australian partnership. Australia over the last few years has, of course, counted India as an extremely important and strategic maritime partner for Australia, in this region, the Asia-Pacific region. And now with a pact signed to share more assets as far as this region is concerned, this certainly will send a message to China as well at the current climate.
Well, yes, so of the 9 agreements that have been signed today, Shivani, between India and Australia in that virtual bilateral summit, the one that caught my attention was the one on Indo-Pacific. Now, this is specifically on cooperating between the two nations in terms of making sure that the Indo-Pacific or the larger Indo-Pacific region, and specifically the South China Seas and the Malacca Straits, they remain free for everyone to use. They remain international commons, and that no particular nation really exercises or flexes muscles there. Clearly, this was aimed at China, I would say, because if you go by the wordings, and if I could briefly go through them, recognizing that India and Australia have a shared interest in promoting maritime security and safety, they will deepen Navy-to-Navy cooperation and strengthen maritime domain awareness in the Indo-Pacific region through enhanced exchange of information. This essentially means military exchange of information and both the navies working jointly, so to say, to make sure that these regions remain free and no particular nation flexes muscles. So I believe that is an important takeaway coming as it does from this agreement, where I believe more than a dozen times Indo-Pacific is mentioned, which is a new coinage by the United States. In fact, they have renamed their Pacific Command as Indo-Pacific Command. And along with Australia and India, Japan and the United States form the Quad, which is aimed at making sure that the larger Indo-Pacific region does not become or come under the hegemony of any one nation, obviously China. So, I mean, that's the important takeaway so far as I see this virtual bilateral summit that took place between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Scott Morrison of Australia.
Abhishek, let's also focus a little bit on another round of commander-level talks that are set to take place between India and China as well on the more specific and pressing issue of the skirmish in eastern Ladakh. There have been 2 such summits that have been held, one towards the end of May, one just a while ago in June. What more can be expected? So far, the previous 2 have been inconclusive.
Well, in fact, my sources tell me in the government, Shivani, that anything between 12 to 20 talks, as in more than a dozen talks, have happened between the two sides, going up to 2-star rank, which means Major General rank. But then they have been inconclusive. So beginning with the commanding officer level, where colonels come across and talk to each other, to brigade commander, where the brigadiers talk, and then, of course, major generals at the division level. But what is important is that every stage upgrade has happened in terms of what level of talks to happen. And this is going to be very important, where the Corps Commander, 14 Corps Commander, would be meeting his counterpart from the Chinese side at Chushul, Moldo, and on the Chinese side. So, in a way, talks have been going on. Military talks are more important because that's it's for the soldiers to really decide how much they have crossed as per their perceptions into other territory and where to pull back. In this case, the Chinese coming into the Galwan Valley and India pushing back. So I believe the Corps Commander level talks that happen day after tomorrow would be significant in terms of what give and take happens. Many times it is possible that Chinese want to increase their stake so that they can show that, okay, fine, they listen to somebody at the senior level. While diplomatic channels are on between New Delhi and Beijing, these talks really gain significance because ultimately it is for the soldiers to decide to go back. The reason why the talks have escalated to this level is, my understanding is, Shivani, that this movement of the Chinese, both in the Galwan Valley and then at the north of Pangong Lake could not have happened without a nod from Beijing, possibly connected with internal dynamics, internal politics, because the National People's Congress was happening in that period. It is over. Now perhaps a nod would have come from the Beijing side that the troops can be pulled back. So hopefully the talks that happen day after tomorrow would be constructive.